I think Latino kids have a harder time in school. Probably they don't know English and they need help from like their friends.
Underrepresented students come with a different set of issues and they really don't know what's going on. I mean, they have absolutely no idea what happens in the lives of underrepresented students until they take a drive over to their apartment and take a peek inside their house, and then suddenly there's clarity. Suddenly you realize that the student is combating so many things that a white student coming to school doesn't even touch.
When I was young, I lived with my family, as in entire family, like full family. And then my dad started making wrong decisions. And so we separated. That's when the moving started. So when my dad moved out, my mom didn't have like money to pay for rent. So we got kicked out. And that's when we went to Hillsborough. We had to live in a homeless shelter. My mom passed away when I was 12. We had visited Mexico before, and she did make progress, getting better. And we came back and she crashed again. So she decided that she would go back one more time and stay until she was like fully healthy again. And she never came back.
And on the front page of the paper, there was an article about Portland Public Schools, and it was talking about the gap that they had between their expulsion rate and their discipline rate and their student demographics. And they were expelling and disciplining at a much higher rate students of color than they were their white students. And so I went down and asked our data department to put together some information for me about what our expulsion and discipline data looked like. And at that point in time, 18% of our students were Latino, and they made up 54% of our expulsions. And it was 3-to-1. It was almost like exactly the same kind of data that Portland got. And when I saw Portland's data, in my mind, I was real critical that it could be that bad, that there could be, that kind of overrepresentation of students of color. This is really disappointing, and we're going to have to do something about this. And his response was, well, you haven't even looked at the student achievement data because it's probably worse.
Star.
We have children that are learning. All of our kids are learning. We have a great staff here and a bunch of good students. So let's say we have some kids come in and we've got some English children that are good students. They've had all the advantages. They've got a great start in school, and they're right about here. And then you've got some other children that perhaps don't have all those advantages. They didn't have the background that some of our children have, and so they're starting here. So here's this gap. And what's happening is, as we're doing our instruction, and everybody is going along and in the best of circumstances, all the kids are paying attention, everybody's learning, and we're going like this, and we still have this gap. So what we're trying to do is to close this gap, and what we have to do is to work harder on these children that haven't had the advantages to begin with, or for whatever reason that they're not learning as much, and try to build them up more so that they can kind of catch up. And we still want to get these guys going. So that's our struggle, that's our challenge.
The idea that maybe that would take away from the time that would be spent with my child is because that extra attention would need to be given to these other groups.
Some subjects are easy, some are harder, but most of the subjects are pretty easy.
Scrubs.
I think if the situations were reversed, and if my family immigrated to France and we were not contributing tax-wise, and we put our kids in school there, knowing that the school would have to spend more time with them, I think we would do what we could to help them. And I don't see the reverse happening.
Sorry, I had 3 jobs for 9 months. but for probably about 8 years, I always had 2 jobs, except for it's been about 6 months that I had to quit my second job to be able to support my kids at home with school, with homework, and that kind of thing.
I think as long as we continue to stay involved, there's not any particular thing that has me worried, at least when it comes to their education.
I think my parents worry a lot about my future. I think they worry about if I'm gonna get a career or not, if I'm gonna go to a university.
Me preocupo de que mis hijos no tengan, de que yo como madre no esté preparada para que ellos puedan ir a la escuela, para que tengan para por lo menos empezar un año de colegio o de universidad, que ellos se preocupen porque yo no tenga el dinero y estén frustrados por eso y por eso quieran dejar la escuela. Y me preocupo que ellos no tengan como los principios básicos que se necesitan.
Last year on the ACT, we had a higher percentage than the state of Oregon meet all 4 college readiness benchmarks. College readiness in math, science, reading and writing, all 4. That was 27% of our students, which, by the way, even though it doesn't sound that good, is a really high number. For our Latino students last year, 7%. 7% met all 4 college readiness benchmarks.
Connections with teachers have a lot to do with Latino kids and kids of color succeeding. I think there needs to be more connection with them, like there is with the white kids.
I mean, I hold educators in such high esteem. I think that what they've chosen to do with their life is really admirable, and that they have a heart to educate all kids. But what I am saying is that I think unconsciously there is a lower expectation for our students of color, and it has an impact on the kind of outcomes that our students of color have as they move through our system.
Education is about relationships, and for the underrepresented student, I think that is especially the case. So it would be nice if there would be more underrepresented, I guess, minority educators to sort of set an example for students.
It would be really helpful if people of color and Latinos would be the ones setting the example, like as a teacher, as a counselor, or as something big. It would help a lot. It would put that hope out there and the knowledge that there is a chance.